Hi and welcome. Today I want to talk about snakes and daggers. And it's always interested me, and especially since last week talking about the shield and the sword in relation to Persian meals, then I thought to myself, well, let's find out why, or get my ideas on why, the snake movement in Indian clubs exists. Where does it come from? So I'm just going to demonstrate it very, very quickly. So here we go. So this is the outward movement. And this is the inward movement. Okay, so hi, my name is Wolkowinski, and today I'm talking about snakes and daggers. So I'm just going to put these down. And why a dagger? Well, if you think about it, the British military basically adapted clubs in India into the shorter version that we know, like this sort of thing here, and the smaller ones, which is the military club as it's known, and Mike Simpson's got to be one of the world leaders in making that club. And they are absolutely fantastic. You know, from a military point of view, they were great because you could pack them up, and I mean also, as you can see here, I mean they fold together, and I mean, you know, very economic for transportation. But now, I've been messing around with doing snakes and exercising with snakes using a 2-pound club. And ever since I started looking into the background, or maybe what the background is, I can't find any texts about it, but I can certainly find references to it with the knife. And my prop for today is just the humble kitchen knife, the longest one I could find. But compared to this, I mean, daggers, for instance, in the Middle Ages were 18 inches, 20 inches, 22 inches, so they were the length of an Indian club. Now, so the dagger, let's just think about the dagger uses for a minute. So if you use the dagger and the saber grip, which you know very well from Indian club work, for making a large circle, you use the saber grip. And the saber grip can also be used to thrust. So I mean, you can thrust upwards and you're going to hurt somebody and stab them, basically. So that's the saber grip. And a grip that I haven't been very aware of, but it exists actually in the snake movement, is the ice pick, which is the knife in reverse. I mean, you're basically stabbing downwards. So there's the two grips. Now let's have a look. We'll put this one down because we won't need this on anymore. And you'll have to just imagine my club now is the equivalent of a dagger, basically. This is what we're talking about. And just to remind you, that daggers were normally, most of the time, had a blade on both sides. And one of the reasons for that is because if you stabbed somebody, it stabbed them inwards, and then you pull the knife out and it would open the wound up even more. Now, how does that translate to the movement, the snake movement? Now here's my version of this. So holding in the sort of saber grip here, if I go to stab somebody, okay, and then I want to reverse the movement, change that over, and stab them from the top, so say into the neck or somewhere like that. And there's the use of it. So now, if you think about it, so if we swing through, go into basically the ice pick grip, okay, then we switch over, and we've got the saber grip. So the movement, basically, to my mind, has to come from dagger combat And maybe it was invented purely as a form of dagger combat. Now going back to, I started off trying to do this move with 2-pound clubs, even 2.5-pound clubs, and found it incredibly difficult. And thinking about it now, with a lighter club, these are basically just over 1 pound. It's a lot easier. You can keep your arms straight, which is basically the discipline in Indian clubs. But if you have a look at some videos that, for instance, Hans Reuter, I did an article on Hans Reuter, if you want to look on the website under the people pages. Hans Reuter does a twirl like this, and the club changes its position, so he does it upward and downward. And so there's Hans Reuter, who's no longer with us, and also somebody who does do it very well is James Needlinger, and he was the one who first sort of opened my eyes to the snake movement, but I could never quite work out why, what's it actually for, because you have to do it with such a light club. But when you do it, the work that you do with your shoulders is huge. So I mean, you've got this type of movement, throwing the clubs out, catching them, and now just to show you the Indian club version of this, so it goes from this stabbing type of grip, the finger comes up on top of the club, goes over the top of the pommel, and the fingers are downwards. I mean, it looks like a reverse saber. So if you think about it this way, there's the saber, and then here's the reverse saber. Okay. So that's just a little bit about the grip. So there's already similarities there. So, and with the saber again, just to sort of finish off, the saber, the point of the dagger is pointing up, and with the ice pick grip, the point is down. Now, going further, so the uses of it now, from a military point of view, what are the uses of the ice pick grip? The ice pick grip would be basically your sword. Imagine your sword's being knocked out of your hand. You've got a dagger on your belt, so you pull the dagger out, and probably almost instantly it's going to be in this sort of type of grip. And grappling comes into it because you've got your opponent very close terms. You're grappling, you're fighting with him, and basically you're trying to stab him into the neck, into the shoulder, or somewhere where the armor is open. Because remember that the clothing in those days, they were all protective clothing. They were all padded clothing, which was apparently very good at protection, penetration protection, and also chainmail and full body armor. But the full body armor had its faults. I mean, there were spaces, between the helmet and the neck. There were spaces in the armpits. I mean, another favorite place for stabbing apparently was into the armpit, which it would disable. You can just imagine what horrific that would be. And there was I want to quote a very famous dagger called the rondelle, which it basically was designed purely for penetration of armor, and it was more like a spike. And it had a pommel, and it had a guard on it, and it would be designed to push through or push through that way. Now the next thing that comes up in this is basically is stress. I mean, during battle you're stressing, and you've got again the saber grip, so you've got the upward sort of stab to the gut, let's say, and it's going to basically disable. And just from a sort of modern perspective, apparently from records show that in street crime, this is the type of stab that's used the most. So it's just disabling the person who is the unfortunate victim, and the robbery can take place and so on. Whereas the downward stab is the frenzied stab, where it's like the crazy caveman, and apparently gorillas fight like this, so they're going like this, fighting. And there's a lot of power in that. There's sort of power from the side, power from the bottom. The only place that you haven't got the power here is, so there, maybe possibly you'd switch grips to attack from that side. So that's definitely the weaker side if your elbow turns out, so you can strike from here, from the top, from the bottom, and then stab from below. Now, I'm just going to grab the other club for a second. Another use for the ice pick, again, the ice pick here, is protection. So basically, if somebody's striking you with a sword, in fact I've grabbed the wrong thing because I wanted to grab, so I mean if somebody's attacking me with a sword, I can put the blade of the knife down my elbow, and that's going to basically can hit it, and I can also deflect it and push it away. So it's, and also basically the from a point of view of a hook. So if somebody's coming at me, I can hook their weapon out of the way. So there's another use for it. And from a stabbing point of view, the ice pick can go in from here, and also you can extend it. Now, apparently there's a lot of debate about which is the better reach, because here you'd have to stab that way, and here you can stab that way, and there's a little bit less reach, but there's more power there, so there's advantages to both. So it's basically attack and defend. So the ice pick with the blade down is more versatile because you've got a defensive action on it, and the saber is more sort of cut and thrust, and it's less safe. So listen, this is just some thoughts from my point of view as to why the snake movement was developed, because really it's such a lightweight movement. It never made much sense to me. You know, you draw it across the body here, turn the clubs through. I mean, you can really feel the top of your shoulder working with it, especially sort of up in this sort of area here. And this is a sort of classic snake. And then if we go inwards, now I will say that from what I can gather, fighting with two daggers never happened. So, you know, the one hand would be probably with a shield, because you, in the Middle Ages, certainly, and sort of earlier days, you'd be guarding against arrows flying at you, so you can deflect them with a shield. But if you've lost your sword, out would come your dagger. And then daggers always had a pommel on them, and a much smaller guard. Some of them were flat, like this has got a flat pommel here. So if we go back to the rondel dagger, I mean that was used as a spike, so you know, being knocked say into here or something like that. And you know, it makes you wonder why Cobbett and Jenkin made the first club, as you can probably see it against the white background there, with a button on it, because basically the rondel dagger had a button or a flat surface similar to that, maybe a little bit bigger, and it would have also had the guard here, which would have guarded against a sword sliding down the dagger or some other sort of sharp object. So listen, I hope this is food for thought, and it always interests me, you know, where some of this stuff came from. And if you've got any comments or any ideas, I'd love to hear from you, because it's a very interesting subject. Same as the meal with the sword and the shield. You know, is it a military way of changing the direction of a dagger from the ice pick to the saber? And again, if I go like this, so basically I'm stabbing somebody here, maybe I've got them by the shoulder or by the head, so stabbing them into the gut, changing direction, stabbing them into the back of the neck. Bit of a gruesome subject, but I mean, really, really interesting. And there's one other thing that I wanted to add to this. From the, historically this is well recorded. I mean, both those grips are well recorded from a dagger point of view, going back to the Middle Ages. So this is nothing that's sort of, you know, this is not sort of, it's partly guesswork on my part, but also partly factual. You know, from the point of view of the ice pick, apparently swords, horsemen or the cavalry used to use a sword in this type of grip because they'd stab down on their opponents that were on foot. So it's just another way that this type of grip was used. So the dexterity from holding a club or sword or a weapon from here, changing it around to here, would have been part of war. So as I say again, thank you for joining me, and I'd love to hear your comments on what you think about this. I'll post this up onto the website. If you guys have got any interesting pommels, I wanted to ask you a question. If you've got an interesting pommel on your clubs, please post a photograph below, because I'm just really interested of what's, because I know, for instance, that you can have flat pommels like this one, you can have circular ones like I've got over here, you can have flat ones like on the Cobbett and Jenkin one, and I've also seen like almond-shaped ones, so that they go, or egg-shaped here. And also on swords in particular, there is the Brazil nut-shaped pommel, which was basically used for allowing the sword to slide through here. So I mean, with this, you can see that there's a bit more. It's quite wide. With that sort of pommel, if it was flatter on one side, it could slide up in here. So it's you can see it's coming up in front of my wrist into the saber grip, rather than hitting the bottom of the hand, which you'd probably more likely do with something that's round. Anyway, so thank you for coming, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now, have a think.